Hey, Scott, how are you?
I'm hanging in there. Put it that way.
It's a rather stressful day south of the border yesterday.
Yeah.
So the sun came up this morning. Everybody's okay.
Yeah.
And this too shall pass.
Yeah. It's been quiet around here, though. Usually the news is on all the time, and my roommates have everything turned off.
I did as well. I turned off my New York Times nudges and MSNBC, which I watch, and CNN. I just I know Jack's coming on later. Jack turned it off for like 12 hours. He didn't see a thing. Who won? Yeah. Anyway, enough of that stuff. It's great to see you. We've got some comments already. I'm just going to just do an introduction first, and then we're going to Jack and Jim are already here. Carl is away tonight. He'll be back next week. If you notice, we have the Powered by Audiophilia sign, and we have enough to get lots of people up and our images. So, so that's good. And we have Paul Schieman, who's the oboist with the Montreal Symphony and also plays Corang. He's also a concert organist, and he's music director, conductor of the Alberta Baroque Ensemble, which he founded. So he's one of those guys, very multi-talented. So let me just bring up Jack and is Jack and Jim.
Good evening, Jack.
How you doing, guys?
Good evening.
Yep. I'm here.
It's wonderful to see you. For our audience, Jack just spent 36 hours getting from Tennessee to Seattle. But he's here.
36 with 3 hours sleep.
Wow! You must thank you for showing up.
Well, great. Well, it made my days.
That's right. So let's go through some questions. Andrew from Oz. Oh, I like those colors. I like the script. It's nice. Have a great show.
Yeah.
Looking forward to the Isy standard comparison. I'm going to do that in a minute. Hilary Hahn was taught by someone who was taught by Isy. That's right. And can you also talk a little about solar energy as you just reviewed today? Yes. Jack was very, very kind and sent me that record. We'll talk about that in a second. Joey, hi everyone. It's the best night of the week.
Joey.
Thank you, Joey.
Hi, Joey.
And Robert, I'll enjoy hearing about solar also. Allegedly, it was tracked over lunch break during another session. Oh, interesting. And Alan says, hello, Wednesday night music lovers. Hi, Alan. It's great to see you. James says, James from what's the town in Ohio? It's not Cleveland. It's Columbus. I think it's in Columbus. James is the father of the Calatrava String Quartet violinist. Maybe moving to Canada. Do you have him in Vancouver? Well, I live in Victoria. People always go, oh, you live in Vancouver, right? Lots of rain. We live in Victoria, across on the Vancouver Island. 1/3 the rain. Where did Jim go? I guess he'll come back. Jim just disappeared. Anyway,
yeah, a lot of people are saying that today.
Yes, well, it'll all work out. I promise you.
Okay.
Daryl, there's Jim again. There you go, Jim. Don't go away. Don't go away, man.
I don't know what happened there. Anyway, there we go.
Daryl, hi, Daryl. Hello, gents. And Postal Playboy said, can anyone recommend a piece or two too? And then it runs out, so let us know. And Sky, of course. Sky's become, sent me some lovely photographs of the concert hall this week. We'll talk if Sky comes up. And he received the record that I sent him, which is very nice. And Jack got the Ligeti. We'll talk about that when Sky comes up, which is wonderful. Yeah. So I'm going to put something up first at stage. So Scott, can you tell us a little bit about that beautiful thumbnail that you got there?
The thumbnail was for a video I just put out last week or this week. And I had it up for like a day. It followed the other video, which was solar energy. And the morning that I put this up, I arrived to work and I got a phone call, and it was the day before the election. I said, oh, it's more fundraising calls. I didn't answer it. Then another came in again. And I was on the floor. I was working with people. And then all of a sudden I read the text and it said, hey, Scott, we're really sorry about solar energy. We saw your review and we wanted to let you know that there was an error in the solar energy ad copy. and that it's not from, it's not a new cut. It's from the original tapes that, the original plates that Kevin Gray did in 2012. And I said, oh, well, thank you so much for reaching out and letting me know. I'll correct it in the copy and in the comments. And I said, by the way, who is this? And and the name comes up, Chad Kassam. I nearly dropped on the floor because he's never contacted me before. And I said, oh, well, thank you so much, you know, Chad. And he said, you're doing a great job. But one thing I wanted to ask him for sure was, what is the situation on the living stereo represses? Because if you watched my video, I brought up the issue that some are not being repressed, and it seems to be growing. The number seems to be growing. He told me, look, Scott, he says, those have been out for over 10 years, and really we're not planning to repress them. It's certainly not the bulk of them. If we have jackets around, we may press a few more just to fill out the jackets, but we're not ordering new jackets. We're not pressing some of the lesser titles. So, you know, you can let your viewers know that if they want any of these titles, to start knocking them off their list, because they probably won't be repressed. And I don't think he was being, you know, his usual kind of salesman self, buy now or cry later. He was really earnest about it. And he was even surprised that the Rachmaninoff was still in stock. So
I ordered it, by the way, on your recommendations.
Yeah, quite a handful of people ordered it. So if you're interested in it, if you've seen the video, you might want to order it, because there's not supposed to be very many left. And we don't know the status of the rest of the titles. So I thought I'd let you know as a public service announcement.
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, so tonight, please comment lots, which you're doing already, and ask lots of questions. And also ask Paul questions about oboe, organ, conducting, Baroque ensembles. He's coming up in about 25 minutes. Please like and subscribe. That really helps the channel. And don't be shy, jump on. We have room for everybody now. So finally, I put my hand in my pocket, wasn't cheap, and got the Pro, which I'm happy to do. And so when I put out the link, please come on up. I've been getting lots of emails and jumping into my DMs from people who have not been on for a while. They've been working, Armin and some other people. So hopefully they're going to come up. So we've got a new look tonight, the Pro. It's more blocks available. And we have the Powered by Audiophilia button. It's covering up my hand and Scott's face, not on his face.
Right there.
Yeah. So now I want to just talk about some new releases. Let's add to the stage. So these are coming out from Deutsche Grammophon, the original source, done by the Emil Berliner Studios. There's 4 new ones coming out. They're going to be released in February. I will be ordering that one for sure, because it's a very fine performance. Michael Tilson Thomas hit home runs with the Boston Symphony as far as performances go, including that great performance of The Rite of Spring, which was recorded so poorly. He also has his performance of Debussy Image, with Dorio, Anthony Dwyer, which I put on the dream list as is. It is so good. It's beautiful. It's very detailed. It's balanced. You hear the hall. It's not too reverberant. But these guys at Emil Berliner, they did simply fantastic. They did a good job on that. And on the other Abato, the Debussy, is it Debussy? I think it's Debussy and Ravel. Beautiful jobs. But that is a great performance. I hope they can get the recording right. I'll get it. I'll review it for the magazine and bring it to your guys' attentions. This one is another famous one, a great Romeo and Juliet, and a great Le Poème de l'Extase. I prefer the Philadelphia with Ormandy, which I think is the greatest performance ever on record. But this will be done, I'm sure, by Emil Berliner, by Renier Maillard and Sidney Meyer. I'm sure it'll be done really well. This one, not really that interested in. Mozart Requiem, very beautiful, of course. It'll be lovely. Carl Böhme's wonderful. This one is interesting. There's not many great sixths on record in audiophile records. I've got the Chicago Symphony, which is very good with Schulte, but this originally is a very good, as a brilliant performance. But who knows with the recording with Carrion, the fifth was kind of screwed up a little bit. They did a good job with it, Emil Berliner, and it's okay, but I sold it eventually. Very bad edits at the end and stuff. The performance is magnificent. The Alma theme, the second subject, da 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 dee 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 dee, right? He's writing that in his little hut while Alma's up there having affairs with painters. I mean, it's just awful. It's dreadful. Poor Gustav with a bad heart condition. But it's so magnificent, and nobody plays it like Berlin and Carrie Ann. It's unbelievable. It'll take your breath away. So I'm hoping they get some good reviews, and then I'll invest in it. Okay, there's that. And there's the Alberta Baroque Ensemble insignia that's for Paul's coming up. Now, some equipment. I purchased a new the Iida 9 mono. Retails for $4,900 US, and I'm reviewing it right now. It's absolutely wonderful. Now, Jack, I will tell you, it is better than the Audio Technica, but of course it's about 300 tons. But it is magnificent. It's very, very good. So there's that. What else have I got here?
Well, dollar for dollar, though.
Well, that MC is still an incredible deal. Jim, can you tell us a little bit about the difference between BBC Radio 3 and Classic FM? Because have a look at that, guys. BBC Radio 3 scores record audience. We're talking about the classical audience. Tell us about that, Jim.
Well, BBC Radio 3, if you don't live in the UK, is the classical music radio channel. It has been for years and years. And they've gone through quite a few changes in the last 10 years, should we say. A lot of people say it's dumbed down. A lot of people say that it's just, not as... It used to be known as the University of the Airwaves. If you wanted to self-educate yourself and you couldn't afford to go to university, you would listen to Radio 3, and they reckon you'd learn about as much about culture and drama and music as you're likely to learn anywhere else. But it's gone down the route of being much more user-friendly, and lots of people, with their requests and things. They used to have a request show on Saturday morning, Record Review, which is a wonderful show. They've moved it to Saturday afternoon, and everyone's moaning because, you used to wake up on Saturday morning and have a listen for an hour of what the latest reviews, and a bit like us here. But the interesting thing is that the ratings have gone up. I mean, the BBC never used to worry about ratings until it started to really get competition. And of course, the competition was Classic FM. And Classic FM at one point was getting as many as 5 million listeners every day. And I think this spooked the BBC into trying to compete with them. But the interesting thing is that people seem to have moved over to Radio 3 from Classic FM, because the one thing Radio 3 still does is live concerts and recorded concerts in their entirety from various orchestras around the country, Manchester, Birmingham, Liverpool, etc. Whereas Classic FM seems to have gone even further down the, mood classics and, slow classics thing. And I think people have got a bit fed up with listening to the same 50 pieces regurgitated week after week. So Classic FM is now getting record low listening figures, and Radio 3's listening figures have gone up quite considerably. So that's what that story is about, really.
Thanks, Jim. This is interesting, guys. This is Ricefield Records. He's an American gentleman. I think he's American. He lives in Japan and does a lot of shopping at Tokyo record stores, which, that's an amazing thing. But he went to these rare classical records. It's called Eterna Trading. Check out the video. My God, the records he finds in that store. And they ship all over the world, so you can buy them. Some incredible monos. I know that Jim's been bringing in the monos. Amazing. But there's some amazing monos and stereos. I'm sure they're quite expensive. But anyway, it's called Ricefield Records. Now, Angie will be on. She's in Washington at the Capital Audio Fest, and she was in Warsaw 2 weeks ago. So she'll be on next week, and she'll do a debrief. And she got this just for poops and giggles to the gang. This is a Rossini record that's quite expensive, and it's sealed, and it's Rossini string sonatas, and it's very highly rated by audiophiles. So just she wanted me to see that. I don't know what's next. That's all. Oh yeah, it's barred in. That's coming up. So let's remove that. Okay, now I'm going to go big just for a second. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about these records. And please jump in, guys. My friend Jack Graham, who is incredibly kind, sent me this directly from acoustic, from analog production. So they came in that beautiful packaging. It's a double album, stout and cover, QRP. This is the original Concord label. I reviewed it at Audiophilia today. I loved it. It was exactly as Jack described. Incredible sound. It's not the Scott. Can you tell us a little bit about the pressing?
The pressing, well, it's a new mastering by Kevin Gray, Coherent, pressed to QRP. It's cut at 45. And I'm sorry, did I say it was a new mastering? It is a mastering from the previous plates that were done in 2012. The original information was that it was a new mastering. So,
and it's wonderful. I mean, it's really wonderful.
It does sound wonderful. I compared it to Stan Ricker's cut on Pure Audiophile, and it was very good. Either one is very good, but this one is.
I've got a friend of mine who's got the original Concord from, I think, 1984 that I'm going to get a hold of, and I may do a comparison between the two. I think the original is probably really good. I'm sure it's nowhere near the remix.
Is it on a single disc, Jack?
Yeah, 33.
Yeah, so they put everything onto one disc. So you can imagine the 45 and the 33 on 4 sides really improves the sound a bit.
Well, Jack mentioned about Ray Brown's bass sound. I call it in all its enormity. It's big and amazing. And I even said a little bit of a slap at the bass in the review, because if you watch that movie, I Love You, Man, a funny part. And literally, it's amazing. Now, you're not going to get groundbreaking Chick Corea, Keith Jarrett. No. It's straightforward swinging jazz, and it's a lovely listen. But the recording, the secret part of it is the piano player. Jack, can you tell us a bit about the piano player?
Yeah, Gene Harris played with a group called the Three Sounds. They recorded on Blue Note for many years, and if their recordings are really pricey, and they're really hard to find. They're really hard to find in good condition because they were played for parties and they were played a lot. They're really hard to find. They're quite pricey. He kind of retired for a while. I think he lived in Boise, Idaho, or somewhere up in the Northwest here. And, he kept in touch with Ray, and Ray talked him into coming back and playing, and he sounded as good on this record as he did with the Three Sounds, if not better. And that group, the drummer was they were all together in San Francisco recording for different people, and they were doing some other record dates. The drummer worked with Joe Williams, I think, the singer, and that's how they put that group together. The drummer wasn't their normal drummer. Ray organized a trio with, I forget who the drummer was, but with Gene Harris after the Oscar Pearson years. And it's just, he plays so tastefully, his harmonic movement, and when he plays his solo, they crescendo each chorus.
It's amazing. And when he hits the treble, it rings on that 45 pressing. Like
there's a couple where he hits that 2-3 octave high in the keyboard, and it just pops. It's crazy. And Ray is such a he almost plays melodic lines on the bass. It's almost a bass solo, but yet he's in the background. I went to school in Indiana, of course, with John Clayton, who grew up in L.A. and was Ray. Ray was his mentor and his teacher for many years. It's just, I think it's one of the 10 best sounding records in my library. Period.
Cool.
amazingly good. And Scott, you know it's going to go out of print again. It took many years to get repressed.
Yeah.
It's going to go again, and buy now or cry later.
Yeah. No,
I'm going to dig again, if you don't mind. I'm going to talk a little bit about Eugene Isy, Belgian violinist, famous concert for his concerts. Not so much for his recordings. He was in the 1900s, 1910. I'm not sure when he died, but he wrote these 6 sonatas for violin solo. Oh my God, they're absolutely wonderful. And Sky bought this recording and said it was Sky recommended. So I started doing a shootout of all the because you know Tom, our friend Tom Bowes, and not just Jim's my friend, but your friend as well. His recording is fantastic. So I thought to myself, well, we have to be honest. I love Tom as a person, I really do, and I love his artistry. But Hillary was sounding pretty amazing. So what did I do? Let me see which ones I listened to. I got them here. Okay. I listened to Ruggiero Ricci, very good. Leonidas Kavakos, not a big fan. He was a fine player, but it's not my thing. I did Tom's on, I think it's on Summit, I think. Tom Bowes, it's wonderful. Alina Ibragimova, I talked to you about the Mendelssohn last week on Hyperion. She's fantastic. She really is. She has technique to burn. She really does. And the Canadian fellow from Brandon, I always forget his name.
James Ennis.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. It takes a village. And James Ennis, he was wonderful. Shlomo Mintz I was expecting great things. It's good. Okay. So
Anthony, did Milstein record them?
I didn't see it in the Apple Music, but I will tell you though that I'm going to go. So of course I have a soft spot for Tom because we love Tom, and his playing is wonderful. If I was going in order though, second would be Alina Ibragimova on Hyperion CD. She's fantastic. And Sky wanted us to do the second sonata to test. So I followed Sky's recommendation because I didn't know the works at all, or very little. And the second one is based like on the Bach sonata. And there's some really aggressive parts written in the score. I follow the score on IMSLP. And Alina Ibragimova, I thought she was going to win the day. Till I got this. This record is absolutely unbelievable. Her playing, in number 2 at the end, there's the dies irae on the bottom of the violin part, do, do, dee, do, dee, do, do, do. And she's going up and down, like playing the first note of the pattern, then 6 or 7 notes, then the second note of the dies irae. I've never heard anything like it. I mean, the other guys, James Ennis, Ricci technique, Tom's wonderful, and Alina Ibragimova is fun. But Hilary Hahn sold me on that pattern alone. Her sound was absolutely beautiful. It was so deep. The recording is being cut by Sidney Meyer. I'm not sure who did the mastering, but it's obviously digital. But again, they do, Emil Berliner do digital so well. I mean, it sounds like an analog record. So very, very highly recommended. So that's my choice. I hate to do it to you, Tom. Love you, Tom. But even I think Tom would agree. You can stay away from Shlomo Mintz and you can stay away from Kavakos. But if you have Ibragimova, if you have Tom, if you have Jamie Ennis, you've got a great performances. Ricci, but if you want to get, I think, the very best and vinyl and sound, she's a lovely, elegant, lovely lady and player. So that's it. That's my Isy shootout. Sky asked, and we delivered. That's the way it goes around here. So Paul will be coming on any second. Let's go back to some comments. Sky says he's been playing, streaming Haydn cello concertos all day. Some great Jacqueline Dupre is wonderful. Plus, there's also a Norwegian cellist on a very, very high resolution, which is very, very good.
There's also that LP with John Barbaroli with Jacqueline Dupre, and Valda is playing the harpsichord continuo.
Oh, Valda. Valda was a great mentor of both Jim's and mine. Valda Aveling, Australian harpsichordist, genius, lots of EMI recordings, and professor at Trinity, had a house in Little Venice, and used to have us over and have chamber music sessions and wine. Just a crazy lady. I did my at Trinity. In those days it wasn't a degree; it was a fellowship, which is like equivalent of masters. And you go in and you play a fellowship, and it's a whole recital, and they expect a Wigmore recital. That's what they want. And I played mine. I thought it went well. Enough to pass it. I don't know what mark I was going to get. And Valda, you're not supposed to tell him. And as I was coming down the stairs, Valda, she's so sweet. She's about this high. She goes, Anthony, I'm not supposed to tell you, but you got it. You got it. she was so adorable to the students. So if you ever get a chance to listen to Valda Aveling, Aveling, she's an amazing lady. So James, our friend, with his favorite orchestra, the LSO, used to listen to BBC Radio 3. I really enjoyed the Desert Island discs. You can still look those up. Suggest listening to Previn's choices. Yes, Previn has, as they say, Catholic, lowercase Catholic tastes. And Jim, can you read that one?
Speaking of Alma Mahler, cue up Tom Lehrer. Alma, tell us, all modern women are jealous. You should have a statue in bronze for bagging Gustav and Walter and Franz.
I just always, when I'm watching specials about Mahler with Jan, and I said, was she a beautiful woman? I don't know, but man, she had more guys and hot dinners, man. And poor Gustav is down there in his hut by the lake, composing all day, and she's up there with the Bauhaus guys and the guy
Walter Gropius, wasn't it?
Walter Gropius.
Walter Gropius. Oh no, oh, that's a great name.
James says he loves the Ennis version of Isy, so we got to vote for Ennis. James, have you heard the Hilary Hahn? I know she's de rigueur these days, but she is pretty amazing. But Ennis was fantastic too. I heard Ennis do the Brahms in Toronto, the concerto. He was absolutely wonderful.
He does a good Elgar concerto with Colin Davis and the Dresden as well. It's not my favorite, but he plays it really well.
Wicked Exile. Arturo Delmoni on Waterlily sounds gorgeous doing Isy. Arturo Delmoni and I were in contact at some time. He was the concertmaster of the New York City Ballet Orchestra, and I've got his recordings of the Brahms and the Amy Beach sonatas on Waterlily. He's very fine violinist, very fine. And Paul, who was the violinist who played at the Salzburg Festival. I'm not sure which orchestra he played with, Paul, but of the recent recordings of the Isy, Hahn and Ennis are the ones I like the best. Interesting. Hahn's technique is so much more secure than any version I've heard, but that's what I found. I thought Alina Ibragimova in number 2 that Sky told us to do, when she takes off on those, I mean, a technique is like, wow, right? But it's Paul. But it's really, really outstanding. Okay, so without further ado, add to the stage, Paul Schieman. Hi, Paul. How are you?
Very well, thanks. Thank you for the invitation.
You're very welcome. Well, you look great, Paul, and the lighting is great. The sound is great. We had a technical check last week, and everything's working fine.
Yes.
So, Paul, this is the gang. Scott from the Pressing Matters, and Jack Graham, trumpet from Indiana, and Jim was a violist and Trinity and sang and did bass at the Royal College. And me, you've known since grade 7.
Yes.
Grade 7. A long time. And Paul and myself and Peter Purich, who you all know, the luthier and the violinist from Montreal, we all went to high school. And our music director was my father, Tony Kershaw, and left an indelible impression. And Jan just went, woo, an indelible impression on all of us as musicians. So, Paul, I'm going to get you big for a second here. Okay, if you don't mind, there he is.
Ouch.
So, Paul, can you tell us a little bit about how? I think everybody knows now you've been in the Edmonton Symphony for many years on oboe and Corang, and you're a concert organist. And I can tell you, he's a brilliant concert organist. Taught me a lot about Baroque organs and tracker organs that I didn't know before. And then he also founded 30 years, I think, or more.
Oh,
ago,
44 years ago.
44 years ago, the Alberta Baroque Ensemble. So, Paul, can we start kind of at the beginning? How you, Paul had an incredibly loving, supportive family. His mom and dad were amazing. Did they get you onto the oboe? How did that happen?
It's funny, you know, it was a friend of my parents, an adult friend of my parents, who played the oboe. He came over to our house one day, played the instrument, and I said, that's what I want. I want to play this instrument. And that's how it all started. And then in high school, that's where I started to play more seriously the instrument because they were available. And I eventually purchased my own oboe and started taking oboe lessons and pursued a career as an oboist in a symphony orchestra.
So, yeah, but how did that happen as far as, I mean, you kind of hooked onto the oboe like I did on the flute, and you feel like, that's it, I know what I'm going to do. And that's great. I'm glad it worked out. Aren't you glad it worked out? So, because that's it. But your playing was very serious in high school, and you had a great standard. Who were you studying with?
Well, in high school, I started with a guy named Ronnie Luckett. He was just an old guy who played with the Edmonton Symphony. So I got, music teachers or oboe instructors who were available at the time. It wasn't until university that I got hooked on to the principal oboes of the Montreal Symphony. And then eventually I studied in Toronto with Harry Sargas, who was principal oboe of the Toronto Symphony, before he moved to Ann Arbor to become oboe professor there. Interesting, when I studied with Harry, I was still going to McGill. And what I would do is I would take the train from Montreal to Toronto, which was a 6-hour chain ride every 2 weeks, another hour and a half to get up to his house had an hour and a half oboe lesson. And then I would do everything in return to get back to Montreal that night. But it was the best thing I ever did as far as studying the oboe.
Wonderful. Did you have teachers that had good connections? Jim and I found in London, if you got teachers who were in orchestras and you could network, things went a little easier for you. Did you find that? All
of my teachers, Don Hyder, who was associate principal in the Montreal Symphony, got me a lot of work. Oftentimes subbing with the Montreal Symphony. Peter Bowman, who went on to be principal oboe in the St. Louis Symphony, I was playing second to him many times in the Montreal Symphony. And then Harry Sargas got me a lot of work outside of the symphony realm, but he was so integral as far as my learning to play the oboe and the repertoire as well.
That's amazing. So that's not just school training. I mean, that's on the job training. So you were the standards very high in the Montreal Symphony in those days?
Oh, terribly high. Yeah. What can I say? It's the MSO and.
That was in the heyday, right? With the
heyday. Well, they're still in the heyday.
Oh,
but
sure.
It was, back in the days, there was Franz Waldecker, Raphael Frubeck de Burgos, and then eventually, of course, Charles Dutoit as their music directors. So the standards were always very, very high.
Now, you played a lot under Franz Waldecker with the Orchestre Jeune, right? Can you tell us a little bit about the Orchestre Jeune and Franz Waldecker? A very underrated conductor, if people want to buy records.
Oh, he was great. Orchestre Jeune was an apprentice orchestra set out by the Quebec provincial government. And it was a training orchestra, although we were being paid. And so we rehearsed like every other orchestra, I don't know how many rehearsals a week. And then we did concerts and we did tours. Now, Decker would not let anything get by. So the standard he set was the standard he was so used to. I mean, he was old school. And I really liked the old school conductors because they had all this experience and musicality that maybe you don't get so much with the younger conductors of today. I mean, Decker told me stories of playing whisk with Strauss, who was just finishing the last 4 songs, is one of his stories that he told to me.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You can live on those stories for the rest of your life. Amazing.
Absolutely.
Amazing. So now tell me about, how did you get interested in keyboards and playing the organ?
Well, like a lot of young people, parents got them to take music lessons, either starting on the piano or violin. So I started on piano, and I just got very interested in the organ sound. And so my parents got me in touch with an organ teacher in one of the prestigious churches downtown Montreal, the Church of St. Andrew and St. Paul.
Oh, that's a great church.
Yeah, and then I started taking organ lessons with this person. His name was it's
terrible. Isn't it terrible?
Yeah.
We're the same.
And then I studied with him for several years, and so I was taking piano lessons, organ lessons, and oboe lessons. Then I finally went to McGill. I started at the age of 17 in the undergrad program. And then I switched my organ teacher, to John Grew, who's one of the preeminent organ instructors and organ performers in Canada. And it's with him that I learned so much about performance practice, Baroque performance practice. And, he was a great person, as I was so young, in just learning about life and maturing under his tutelage.
He was a famous name in Montreal, fantastic professor. I remember you telling me how much you were enjoying your lessons with him. Can you tell us a little bit, Paul, about why Montreal is a Mecca for organ, and why, I know it's Castelmontfrez and stuff, and of course the tracker organs and how that came in, and the difference between electro-pneumatic, like they use for the Sanson Third Symphony, and the stuff that you played, those beautiful Wolf organs and things like that.
Well, the instrument I played on mostly and studied with was a von Beckerath pipe organ. And the church was Queen Mary Road United Church, which had the very first modern tracker organ that was instigated by Kenneth Gilbert. That's a famous name for harpsichord and organ. And John Grew was the organist there, as well as teaching at McGill. And so I had the great privilege to learn on this particular instrument. There's a church on every corner in Montreal, and there were these wonderful instruments, and there was these wonderful organ builders out of Quebec as well. And there are a lot of music students, a lot of studying organ and becoming organists and having great instruments to play on.
Incredible. And I remember, can you tell us a little bit about the difference between a tracker organ, which I know that you played, that was like 35, 40 years ago now. Now they're probably in every church in the world. But what was the difference between the electro-pneumatic and the tracker?
Tracker is basically press the key down, a stick moves, it opens the wind chamber, the sound goes through the pipe, and so it's very, very connected. Electro-pneumatic, you're making a electric connection. So you press the key down, something electronic happens, the wind pipe opens up, the sound goes through. Often there's more delay with electro-pneumatic instruments than there are with tracker instruments. It's a preference from each organist. Because I love playing Baroque music, the tracker action instruments were to my liking because of the articulation that we were able to make with these instruments.
Cool. Now, how did you get into the Edmonton Symphony, and how did that happen? And what was the audition process like?
The audition process was, I think at that time, I may have auditioned against maybe 20 other players. There was a standard list of orchestral excerpts that when you do an audition, the conductor or whoever's behind the screen normally asks you, play this excerpt, play that excerpt. And then you do that, and then the next person does it. And then a panel, of course, is deciding on, do I hear somebody else again, or do we select a person? Anyway, I was very fortunate that I was selected to become the assistant principal and English horn of the Edmonton Symphony. And I was 23, so I was just out of undergrad. and I went in right into a fully professional orchestra, and that was the best education one could get.
I bet. And if you could choose one, no, not one, but who are some of your favorite conductors that you've worked with over? I know you worked with a lot of conductors. Who are some of your favorite conductors that really, they're just not just wagging the stick and looking good? I call it the dead German conductors outfit, you know, and they're out there. They're really great musicians, and you really learn something.
Yeah,
yeah. Respected them.
Well, there's Decker, of course, and he spent a lot of time with the Edmonton Symphony as a guest conductor. Let me see. You know, again, there's been so many conductors, and you're putting me on the spot to
I know
memory to work. You know.
Well, I don't want you to tell me the bad ones.
Grzegorz Nowak. He was our music director for a long time, a Polish fellow, and he was a fantastic conductor. So he was with the Edmonton Symphony. I can't remember if it was 6 years, 7 years. Bill Eddins, another very fine conductor who I had a good rapport with.
He's on Facebook. You know, do you talk to him on Facebook? Bill Eddins?
Occasionally, yes.
He's a really acerbic, funny man.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
He's got lots of opinions.
Oh, very much so. Very much so. And then we've had a lot of guest conductors, and especially now the Edmonton Symphony is in between music directors. And so the orchestra is seeing a lot of guest conductors and trying to get an idea of if one of these might be suitable to become a music director of the Edmonton Symphony. Now, I'm on a sabbatical this year. I've done 44 seasons with the Edmonton Symphony.
Oh, man.
It was time for me to take a bit of a break. And my wife really enjoys the fact that I'm doing this because I can spend more time with her. And yeah, I don't miss making reeds, I'll tell you that.
I bet you don't. Oh, my God.
Because it takes so much time. But I'm enjoying the freedom right now. And with my chamber orchestra, I do a lot of the administrative work for it. And I can't believe how much time I'm spending on the administrative work. And how could I do this and play with the Edmonton Symphony, who did 7 or 8 services a week, sometimes 3 to 4 different programs a week, and still be able to run the Baroque Ensemble as well? Any advice for young people taking auditions now? Practice listen to recordings of the repertoire, because if you don't have the experience playing in an orchestra and playing that repertoire, you need some sort of guidance. Yes, your teacher is going to tell you how things go, but also listening to recordings will help you know in what context all these excerpts belong to.
There's another question for you, Paul.
Any organ pieces that you feel are underperformed in frequency, like see done more often? Like, as I've been out of the organ business for quite some time, but I sure like the Saint-Saëns organ symphony. So there's that. I could play it every year and still enjoy that.
Have you ever played it with the symphony?
I've never played that. No. Remember, most of my playing with the organ tended to be more along the church music side of things. So never the big concert type of repertoire. Although Toccata and Fugue in D minor is quite a concert piece as well.
So let's talk a little bit about the Alberta Baroque Ensemble. I know you've had a great passion for Baroque music. Why did you think it up? And who's members, and how do you get in? How do you choose soloists? How does that work?
Well, when I moved to Edmonton in 1979, there was little, if any, Baroque orchestral music happening. And I had a church job at the same time as playing with the Edmonton Symphony. And I looked around and I said, well, what can I do to fix these things? I had a venue, the church that I was playing at, and I'd had all these musician friends, and I gathered a group of them and I said, this is what I want to do. I want to form a Baroque chamber orchestra. Are you willing to participate in this? And I had great support from the musicians that I talked to. And that was the beginning of the ensemble. And it's morphed over the years. And it's gone to a point that we have such a loyal following that we have almost always sold out concerts.
Oh, fantastic.
We have the same personnel for, many of them have been with me for over 20 years, and just great passion for playing this repertoire. And what we also do is we're playing modern instruments because we have to go between playing in the Edmonton Symphony, which most of them play in, to playing in the Baroque Ensemble. So we use modern instruments, but we do use a Baroque bow.
There's the logo. So there's a question for you here, Paul.
Yeah.
From James again.
Oh, that's a good question, because I really haven't spent much time with the Baroque oboe, but they are, first of all, modern oboe, we have all this modern equipment. So we have to shape the cane. We have tools for that. From what I understand is Baroque oboe reeds, you almost have to hand shape the reed itself before you tie it onto a tube. And then they tend to be a wider reed than the modern oboe reed, and maybe a little bit more flexible than a modern oboe reed. And the sound is completely different.
So what is a corno di caccia? I played a lot of Bach at Trinity, and we did Matthew Passion and things, and you get these Corangles playing the corno di caccia part. Is that like the preamble to the Corangle?
The oboe da caccia was the hunting oboe. So it was quite a curled instrument that, believe it or not, you could be on a horse and have it under your arm and try to play while you were hunting. So it was the preamble to the Corangle. But there were other instruments that appeared more like the Corangle than the oboe da caccia. But of course, in Baroque music, that's how Bach referred to the instrument, in all of his scores.
So do you have some favorite works that you bring? Sometimes you think, I did it last year, but I'd like to do it again. I'll schedule it in another 2 years because people love it, and I love conducting it. Is there a couple of pieces that you love?
Well, all of the Bach violin concertos. I could, that there's three, the double, and then there's the A minor and the E major. So I'll just 1, 2, 3. There's 3 seasons, right? 3 programs, 3 seasons right there. Let me see. Lots of Telemann. There's all of the suites, a lot of Telemann suites. I can just keep repeating them over and over again. So
a great flute one.
The A minor.
A minor, fantastic.
Just did it last season.
I know.
I just did it last season.
Not with Sarah, right?
No, I did it with our principal in the Edmonton Symphony. Her name is Elizabeth Cuck.
Very nice.
I can play it for you right now. I got the CD right here.
We'll get kicked off the air. Jeremy asks, have you ever played the I love the name, Oboe d'amore?
Yes, absolutely. So the oboe d'amore is an instrument like the oboe fingering, the English horn fingering, and the oboe d'amore fingering are all the same. They are just pitched differently, but they all have their own idiosyncrasies. The oboe d'amore is probably the hardest instrument to play of the oboe family, only because of the tonality. It's pitched in A as opposed to the oboe, which is in C, and the Corangle, which is in F. And it's just the tonality of this instrument makes it a little bit, because your ear is telling you something, and it's just sort of not quite right. But it's a wonderful instrument. We're doing a cantata with the Baroque Ensemble in December that calls for 2 oboe d'amores, and it's got a spectacular sound. And yes, I have played it, and there's a Bach concerto and a Telemann concerto for oboe d'amore. So the person who asked me the question, do you like the instrument, and have you been listening to any of the works with the oboe d'amore?
Yeah, Jeremy, do you have any favorite works for it? Now, Paul, just before we slow down a little bit here, can you tell us a little bit about your family? You have children?
I have 3 boys, 3 sons. They're all, the oldest one is 40 years old. So you can
I can't believe that, Paul.
Yeah, 40 years old. And he works for the Retired Teachers Association of Alberta. I have a middle son who's, he is 38. He works for a homeless shelter, and he has a son. So I have one grandson, one and done, and then my youngest son is, let me see, he'd be 34, and he works as a event planner for a pharmaceutical company.
Jeremy,
yeah, that's a very good concerto. Yes, yeah,
beautiful. I'll have to listen to that, Jeremy.
And then there's a Telemann one for 2 oboe d'amores as well.
You know what Telemann was? I mean, he was a very industrious fellow. He used to do what do they call, not schemes, but subscription series, because he couldn't sell music, so he did subscriptions. He did incredible 12 fantasies for viola da gamba, plus the flute ones, which are incredibly difficult to play. Amazing. And you were married to a lady the same name as my wife, Janet.
But my father and Janet's father, well, my father was Janet's father's boss, and they both worked for the National Film Board of Canada. And so I've known my wife since day one. And, we all grew up and then went our various ways. And then one day we just happened to meet up again, and everything just connected. And there we go. Yeah. 47 years ago, we were married. Yeah.
47. Now, does she play any instruments? Is she a musician?
She says there's only room for one ego in a household.
Paul, my wife Jan just said, "Amen." Are you telling a group that musicians have egos? Not really.
No.
Well, Paul, does anybody I think we've got some great questions from the peanut gallery. Anybody, James, do you have a question?
Yeah, you probably worked with a few people I worked with. Walter Susskind, the people like that, conductors.
Yes. I think he was a little bit before my time. I think he was in Toronto, I believe.
Right.
Okay.
No,
Yes.
it's interesting because do you notice any differences now in how orchestras are run? I mean, Anthony and I were talking the other day that symphony orchestras today seem to operate much more on a event basis than the old days when you'd have a subscription series of like 10 concerts and you do everything from Schieman to Stockhausen, from Stravinsky to Sibelius, but now orchestras seem to sort of pop up. Oh, we're doing Mahler 2 today, or we're doing Mahler 1, or we're doing the Rite of Spring. It all seems to be event performances. Do you find that in Canada?
Well, with the Edmonton Symphony, everything is, there's a whole season that is planned out. We have like 12 what we call main series concerts, and that'll have the repertoire such as the Brahms symphonies, the Mozart symphonies, and the various concertos. And then there's a pop series. That seems to be selling the most these days, post-pandemic. And then we have a new music series and a children's series. So our orchestra is built up around that type of thing.
How many weeks season do you have?
40 weeks, 40 consecutive weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big season. What about Calgary? How many weeks do they have?
I think about the same.
Oh, cool.
I think about the same. And their orchestra is slightly bigger than ours. The Edmonton Symphony Corps is 56 players, and there's 60 plus in the Calgary Philharmonic.
Right.
But remember, Edmonton and Calgary, we have a rivalry.
Boy, do they ever.
Yeah, it's been going on for years. Not just with hockey teams, football teams, but with the music as well.
TechRite has a great question, and I'd like to hear, this is a great question. Who would you recommend to listen to as the representation of pinnacle of oboe playing, other than yourself, of course? And he mentions Heinz Holliger. What do you think, Paul?
Heinz Holliger was the top of the heap. I mean, great musician. He could do anything. He can, modern music, Baroque music, classical music. No, absolutely. I would recommend listening to him at any time. There are different styles now in oboe playing. You have the North American style of playing, of sound, and then there's the European, and there are many different European sounds. In North America, there was a guy named, just a second, it's going to come to me, Tabuteau, Marcel Tabuteau, who played principal oboe in the Philadelphia Orchestra, and he developed what was called the North American style. So if you listen to a North American orchestra and compared the oboe sound to, let's say, a French orchestra or a German orchestra or the English orchestra, they're quite different sounds. Still great playing and musicianship, just a different type of sound. Hollinger has a very specific sound. You can't compare it. Some people like it, some people don't. It's a matter of taste. Personally, I love the North American sound because that's what I play myself. But Hollinger, definitely the oboist to listen to.
Fabulous.
Well, sorry, Paul. What did you think of Leon Goossens as an oboist?
Oh, I loved his playing too. I certainly loved his playing as well. I forgot about him. Thanks for reminding me about him.
Yeah,
we had all his music at Trinity, all his scores.
Yeah, I did some gigs with his sister Mari Goossens when she was about 90.
No,
and she was principal harp of the other sofa Beecham and stuff.
Oh wow!
She told me this story. I'll say this because I think everyone will appreciate it. She told me this story. She went to the Royal College of Music when Parry was the director, Sir Hubert Parry, and she said she was the only girl in the symphony orchestra. And when Parry used to come on stage, he used to pinch her bottom.
Jeez.
This was about 1910. And I remember we were sat having coffee one day, and I think she was more giving us sort of bit of coaching. And she said, "Oh, darling," she said, I remember when I sort of played this with Hubert Parry, and he used to pinch my bottom, and we were going, "What?" It was
couldn't do that today.
Generation, of course. Leon's brother was Eugene Goossens as well.
Yes, right. Yeah,
another whole story there. Anyway, Paul,
Neil Black was another very
I worked with him a few times.
Yeah, I have a lot of recordings of him as well. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyway, Paul, I cannot tell you, first of all, how wonderful you look. We haven't seen each other for about 45 years, but I've kept tabs on you, of course, on Facebook, and your incredibly illustrious career as an oboist and an organist and as a conductor. And just been watching you from afar and all your successes. So continue great success, Paul.
Thank you
so much for coming on today. We really appreciate it.
And thank you for the invitation. And hopefully my talking was informative. And and Anthony, let's keep in touch.
For sure, buddy. Joey says, thank you, Paul. Awesome. Bravo. And other people will comment. Yes, for sure. As they always say, see you on Facebook. No, but it will be more than that.
Yeah. Maybe Janet and I will make our way out to Victoria sometime.
It'd be lovely to see you.
Have dinner or something.
Oh, wouldn't that be wonderful?
It would be.
Peter's been here. Peter's come and stayed. We had a wonderful time. Okay, all the very best, Paul. Okay, give my best to everybody, and we'll see you again.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Take care, Paul.
Bye. Good night, Paul.
And isn't that wonderful? Now, hi, Ryan. How are you?
Hey, can I tell you I didn't want to interrupt that great stories Paul had, but I have to tell you my oboe trivia question. It, of course, has to do with jazz. Charlie Parker and Strings, very famous record. The oboist on a few of those cuts is Mitch Miller.
Oh yeah, Mitch Miller. Sing along with Mitch. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he was a famous oboist. Yeah. Well, Paul is one of those guys. He's one of those guys, triple threat. Conducting, oboe, and organ, and brilliant at all three. And it was, he was a good friend in high school, and we kept kind of touch. Just you see a concert here or there, but anyway, check on YouTube if Paul's got some concerts up there, and just how wonderful his group is. So Ryan, how are things in Maui?
Weather's great. We're getting busier. More tourists are coming in, so things are going real well.
I've got the link up there. This is the time now to come up. I know you Ryan, you're very clear today. It's a very good signal from your car.
Yeah, that's better than my work computer, I guess.
I'm no kidding. It's like the real Ryan. Before you're like the camera's halfway down. You're in a bit of a haze, And so, where are you now? You're in the car. You obviously parked. You're not driving, right? So,
Oh, no, not driving. No, I have to take my son to his tutoring.
can you show us another Maria Callas, please, as he's driving? Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna do building a library now, and this was and by all means jump in and if you have anything to suggest, Ryan. And by the way, people, we've got lots of room, so come on up. Where's Sky and I know Armin and Illuminate and all those guys. Come on, don't be shy. Come on up. Okay, we don't bite. Well, Scott does, but I don't. Okay, so this is we're talking about Borodin's Symphony No. 2. Let me just get you a little bit. Where is he? There he is. Borodin was a great Russian composer. I think he was a part of the Jim. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's part of the Five, the Mighty Five.
Yeah,
yeah. But he was a chemist. He was a chemist, and
he was professor of chemistry, wasn't he?
You think so? Yeah. There's Sky. Hey, Sky. We'll come to you in a second, my friend. Yeah, he was a professor of chemistry, and just like the other guys, Rimsky-Korsakov was a naval officer. It wasn't their full-time gig. Anyway, he wrote some great music, Borodin. Let me just get to there we go. Okay.
Certainly did.
He did. So, and one of his greatest is the Symphony No. 2, which I say has a very portentous opening movement. Da 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 dee da da dee da. Typical, like, I don't know what I'm going to write next. Let's just repeat this, And he goes on a bit. It's very, very good. But the second, third, and fourth movements are incredibly inspired. Beautiful melodies. The scherzo is one of the most unique kind of orchestrations with this very, very fast syncopation. It's wonderful. And the last one was gorgeous too. So yeah, I can highly recommend. So let's talk about some of the recordings. And this is a building and library, and you're going to want these, one of these for your collection. Now, there's lots. We don't have any streaming tonight from Carl, and I didn't bother streaming anything because I don't think I've found anything that will can kind of beat that. Hey, we got another person coming here. Okay, so this is the one that I'm going to talk about. I'm just going to go big here for a second. And again, if you have something. Where is it here? There we are. So this is the one I recommend. I know that Scott has a real killer one as well. This is the original. This is the LSO. Again, sorry, James. This is the LSO with Jean Martinon, who Jim is. I don't think you worked with him, Jim, but you've been to.
I met him. Yeah, I'm very proud of the fact I met him.
He's a wonderful conductor. Like I was talking to Paul about Franz Paul Decker, very underrated. When he went to Chicago, just on his reputation alone, they basically ate his intestines with a spoon and then fired him. Terrible. But this is an incredible recording. Kenneth Wilkinson, 1957, Kingsway Hall. And it's got one of the best Capriccio Espagnols for audiophiles. I use it in reviews all the time. And that beautiful March from Tsar Sultans, about 5 minutes of just perfection, just beautiful. But the symphony is amazing. It's a living stereo, original. I'm not sure what pressing it is. It's an original Indianapolis pressing, and I spent quite a bit of money on it. But I get rid of my big solo face there. But it's really, really good. Scott, I'm going to get you big for a second. You're going to go to your recommendation.
All right. Mine is from London. I'm not sure if there was a Decca until later. This is what it looks like. This is a Speaker's Corner edition.
Oh, that's the Speaker's Corner too. What do you think of that? What do you think of that pressing?
I think it's okay. I think I like the other one that I have better, and that's Bernie Grumman's ORG.
Oh God.
2x45. Yeah. They use the red label.
I'm always thinking about getting that. It's available about $150, but the LSO is a better orchestra. It is.
Yeah.
So, what do you think of it as a performance?
I've never been that crazy about this record, to be honest with you. Even with its audiophile reputation, I didn't think it was all that great.
Jim, do you have one?
Well, the Martin Iida, I think, is unbeatable. But now this is a complete left field thing, and it's not an LP. It is a CD. It was quite a cheap CD at times. It's an Naxos original, and it's all three of the Borodin symphonies, played by the CSR Symphony Bratislava and Stephen Gunzenhausen. Now they're not a great orchestra.
They get paid they get paid by tuna fish sandwiches, right?
Yeah, but Borodin is not a difficult conductor to play, you know. And actually, what this recording does, it gives you an idea of all three. The first and second symphony. The third one is unfinished, so it's only like 2 movements or something. But there's some absolutely stunning melodies in the first symphony as well. And if you're interested in exploring Borodin, if you find this in a reserve bin or an old sale bin or something, it's well worth getting if you see it, because it's actually quite a nicely recorded, and the performances are very soothing, I would say, because he concentrates on the beauty of Borodin's melody. But Martinov is without doubt the eminence, as far as I'm concerned, in the symphony, and I've never heard he played better.
We've got a few things here. Leanne, hello, dear Leanne from Lachute, Quebec. Aloha, Ryan.
Aloha.
And Jeremy said Martinon and Kubelik would be my 2 choices for the second. I've not heard the Kubelik. I'd like to hear that. I'll give that a stream. Yeah. The problem is that the LSO play the living hell out of that piece. They really do, you know. And Paul says another wonderful work by Borodin is a string quartet, and there is a fantastic recording by the Hollywood Quartet. Yes,
yeah,
the Hollywood Quartet. Do you know who's in the Hollywood? Do you know who's in the Hollywood Quartet?
Oh, what's his name? Conductor.
Felix Slatkin, Leonard Slatkin's
dad.
Eleanor
and his
Allaire,
mother.
Eleanor Allaire, the cellist. Yeah, it's a wonderful string quartet. Sky, how are you?
Very good. I think the Borodin String Quartet number 2. I agree. It is by far his best, more than his symphonies. I think the Borodin Quartet. I think you can stream the Borodin Quartet, and I think it's a 4 movement. It's really sublime. It's good.
Wonderful. That quartet, the group and the music. Jack, do you have any Borodins?
I did before I left the other night. You have to bear with me. I'm in the hotel in the middle of Puget Sound, but I did take a picture of.
Oh, great! Can we see it? Let's focus.
This is again, like Jim said, very soothing. It's very, very soothing.
We can't really read it. Who is it? Who is it?
It's the Royal Ashkenazi with the Royal.
Oh, Philharmonic. Oh, yeah, very good.
Yeah, that's the 1 and 2, and the steps are on here as well. It's a very soothing recording. It's quite old. I don't know how old. I think that came out in the early 90s, but the recording's even older than that. But it's just great playing. The Royal, Jim, you probably know it. The Royal is really does Borodin quite well.
Yeah.
James says Martin is my favorite too. I had the Ensemble on 2 45s and the original. Scott, the original is much better than the 45s. That's interesting.
Yeah,
I actually do have it on Stereo Treasury release from the original label.
Hey Anthony, I have a request for Sky.
Here we go.
Sky, when you put your name up from now on, could you replace the S with a $sign? I had to explain to my wife about the $35 Ligeti that came the other day.
All right. Did you play it for?
It's not for everybody, but it's awesome.
I said.
I'll just put Sky big for a second. Have a look at his name.
Yeah, there we go.
What? That is cheating.
We got all the stuff here. Now Ryan and Sky, do you have a Borodin too that you could tell us what you like?
I didn't know we were going to do Borodin too, but I actually had one in my car. I have a box of records I'm taking back home from my office. My stereo cartridge at work, the tip disappeared, so I've been playing only mono records lately. So I brought a bunch of monos home, and I have this one.
Oh, hang
It's,
on. Let me get
can you see that?
big. Yeah, just bring it down. Oh, Kletsky. Oh, that.
Oh, Kletsky.
I didn't
Yeah.
know. He's another hugely underrated conductor. What's that
The
like?
Kletsky, the Philharmonia. It's an Angel record. This is when Angel first started in 1955. The Sorias were still there. They're the ones who started Angel in America. They went to RC and did those Soria records there with the dowel with the and so these had that too. If you can see, there's a wooden dowel there, and when you pull it out,
Yeah.
it's a piece of wood here. These were much higher production than Angel later on, and they say made in England. So I'm not sure if this was pressed in England or not. It sounds better than most Angels, but the reason I had was because I was only able to play mono records. I only had my mono cartridge for a while. But I thought this is one of the best Angels I have. I don't have very many of them. I only use them as placeholders nowadays. But I'm going to keep this.
I'd like to hear that. I think for
I believe-
Kletsky.
I believe that is pressed in England.
Yeah, so these sound good. I have one more from that.
hang on.
This is a Sibelius 2 with the Kletsky
yeah.
and Oistrakh playing the violin concerto.
Oh,
with,
you got some great
early.
monos, man.
Yeah.
They're fabulous. What kind of mono cartridge do you have, right?
I'm on my second Audio Technica MC. I think it's 303 or 3 something.
Great. Beautiful. Fantastic. Now, Sky, Jack, do you want to talk to Sky about Ligeti?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just, I had never heard of that label before. What was this guy? Worko? W-E-R?
Worko.
It's
I
a
think it's a Decca derivative, I think.
Harmonia Mundi, yeah.
Yeah, I bought a VG Plus, and it was clean, very, very clean. I cleaned it a few times, and it's just impeccable. I mean, it's just a great sounding record. Thank you so much. Again, musically, it's really not for everybody. I would maybe try to stream something first before you buy it, but it's the playing is exceptional.
That's what I recommended just before the Halloween, because it's a haunting piece. It
Yeah.
is really haunting.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
It's Harmonia Mondays. Yeah,
So go ahead, Ryan.
I would say Harmonia Monday is one of my favorite labels.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm going to show Sky something for a second. Sky?
My God,
Ryan, do you want to come and have a quick look at this?
you do have some cool toys now, don't you?
Let me tell you something. Okay, here it is, the throwdown. So the one on the right, is my beautiful wife Jan's homemade apple pie that she made for me. Get me fatter than I should be. Okay, it's just gorgeous. Okay, so Sky goes. Remember, Sky was creeping my Facebook and my Instagram, and he said, "I saw, Anthony, that you had an apple pie on there," so he sent me a photograph of his apple pie. So on the left is Sky's. Oh, Sky, is that yours or your wife's?
It's actually my wife's. Yes.
Yeah, that's
But I picked the apples from my lawn. That's a fresh apple. So
Jan said hers too. These were, but that
the apples Nikki might
Oh,
so. But Jan says she likes your wife's work around the edges. She thought it was very good.
okay. Oh, God.
I know.
It sounds wonderful right now, actually.
Anyway, so tell us, Sky. Tell us a little bit about. First of all, you got that Beethoven violin record?
I did. Thank you.
Did you get a chance to listen to it?
I did. I never heard the Herman Heller. I think she really plays well. And it's also George Heim, as you mentioned. He reminds me of Kemp. I don't know.
He's
really,
fantastic.
He's fantastic. He really is.
So is the violinist. And when the chords that you hear, the violin, and then all of a sudden the chord comes in on the piano. The recording, that's the Dutch pressing. It's really good. The French pressing is even better. So, and by the way, you and I have the only two. We are the only two copies in the world.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Oh no, are you kidding? It was my pleasure. But did you like the performances?
I did. Yeah. It's anything Beethoven. It's just I can't resist. This is fantastic. So thank you. I love it. I really do. So
I just like this. I like, you know, that nobody anywhere knows anything about him. I mean, nothing about him, and nothing on the internet, nothing at Discogs, nothing. And yet he's so good, and the piano player is probably even better.
yeah, it's piano. It's really, he's very, very articulate. I think he's very good. I would like to find out more about him, but I've been really busy, so I didn't reach out to a couple of people. I can probably find out.
Let me get where are we here? I've got to get where is it? Oh, here. I'm going to invite. We've got someone else coming up too.
James, I was wondering how James Mahler toured. I think he went to see the Mahler tour. I wonder how his experience was.
Who, Jim?
James.
Oh,
No,
James.
James Myers, I think.
Oh, James Myers. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Now you sent me photographs of the concert you went to in Kansas City, right, Sky?
Yes, I did. Yeah, Kansas City Symphony. Actually, we saw the Mozart Requiem and then Schubert, I believe number 5, with Labodi is from your turf.
Bernard Labadie. He conducted the start of the Les Violons de Roy, the violins of Roy, in Quebec, and they became quite famous and make records on Harmonium Mundi, I think, and then Hyperion. But poor Bernard had very bad cancer and survived it, and thank God it's in remission. But it took like 5 years of learning to walk and talk again. He was in a coma for like 3 months, 4 months. But he had a real fight back. But he's done incredibly well. He's conducting and doing a great job. And add to the stage, here's Jim Illuminate. Hey, Jim, how are you?
Good. How you doing, Anthony?
Fine. Look at this. We have 7 people on. It's great.
Well, yeah.
And
so
Scott, you still
upgraded.
Yeah, the big upgrade. So, Jim, tell us a little bit about yourself and give us the Borodins first. So I get you big.
Let's see. So I've been listening to music since I was a little kid. I've been listening to vinyl records since I was probably 4 or 5 years old. I used to play my brother's records when they didn't want me to. It'd be worth getting beat up over, just to listen to some music and jump on my bed, right? So yeah, probably around the CD age, when my brother started to flip over to CDs, I wasn't old enough to buy too many records myself. So I was kind of forced into CDs, which was unfortunate because I've been doing digital. I was doing digital up until about 2009 when I bought my first turntable. And I've been collecting records ever since. And so I never really thought that vinyl could surpass digital because I had pretty good digital gear until I got my VPI turntable.
Oh, like Scott.
And a good cartridge. And then I heard the difference, how big the difference
What
was.
cartridge did you get?
I got the Soundsmith, the Zephyr
nice.
Mark III cartridge. Yeah, it's a good cartridge. It's really detailed. It's great for classical and for jazz. It's great for rock too. So it's not the quietest, not the softest cartridge in the world. If you like detail, it'll give it to you. But yeah.
So let's see those Borodins.
Yeah, sure. So I'll show a couple different things. A couple things I cleaned recently. I actually have not listened to these next 3 because I just cleaned them. I think I just told you today, Anthony. I was cleaning a bunch of monos.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm gonna start playing monos. It's like a trend tonight. Everybody's talking about monos.
I know the monomaniacs.
So this is a Durrani from Minneapolis doing the Borodin Symphony No. 2 in B minor. And then there's a Stravinsky Firebird on here as well.
I want to hear that one too.
Beautiful cover. So this is one of those Mercury Olympian series.
Right.
Yeah, it's one of the Mercury Olympians.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm looking forward to listening to this, see what it listens to. So I also have the Audio Technica, the 33 mono cartridge that I'm about to put on my tone arm because I'm going to need to send my Soundsmith cartridge in to get retipped pretty soon. So I think I'm going to start listening to some mono records. And let's see. We got another one here. So this is a Caucasian Sketches. Polovitzian Dances, the Borodin as well. So this is an early pressing. This is a 6 eye.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
I haven't
Yeah,
seen
so
that
this
in
is
years.
so Scott, I was telling you I kind of found a honey hole, and so these are all like Jane's like $1, $2 records
Yeah.
that I've been pulling in like really great condition. You know, even if they're dusty, if they're not scratched, I can restore them, you know, with my process that I do for ultrasonic cleaning. So I
Right.
get these things to the point where I don't really even hear much, you know, in the grooves at all, any you know, any crackle or anything like that. It's almost like a fresh record when I'm done with them. So I've got one more mono, and this one is actually kind of a mix. I'm really interested. I don't know if anybody's seen this record before. Ernest Answer May, but there is a Borodin. It's the Overtures Prince Igor.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like the first track on here. There's a Prokofiev Love of Three Oranges on here. Stravinsky Circus Polka. The Dance Macabre theme song. The Spaniel Rhapsody Chabrier as the
Huh.
Debussy's Prelude, and then May Night Overture, Rimsky-Korsakov. So this is just a mix of a bunch of
It's
Answer
a
May
special
recordings,
anniversary
I
record.
guess. Yeah, and it's a London, so it's an old London mono. You can see that. And then these have been shown already, but this is the, you know, the living stereo from Analog Productions.
That's the Analog Productions one. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
haven't
do
done
like
that
this.
yet.
This is fantastic. This
It
actually
is.
got me. This got me into Origin. Actually, this record right here. I love that record. And then I do have this one too. I do have the
Oh man,
ORG.
Jim's throwing down tonight.
So, I do have this ORG. You know, I kind of agree with Scott. It's a little bit splashy for me, some of the cymbals, and I don't know. It didn't have as much life as I felt like this recording had. I
Oh,
really like this one,
yeah.
but this
I
is
think
still
you're
good.
right.
This is still
Yeah.
good recording. I do like this. I do have another Borodin. It's a Capitol Records 1961 mono recording, but I couldn't find it. The Pelosian Dances. I don't even know if I'm saying that correctly or not, but
All about seeing that. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, the Martinon is, I think the consensus tonight is the Martinon, although we've had some very interesting comments. Well, Illuminate, amazing. Did you spell your name right, by the way, Jim?
I put an I in there, but Jim. Yeah, I just go by Jim.
I can fix it for you.
Jim, where are you from, Jim? Where are you from?
Tell us a little bit.
I'm in Chicago, Chicagoland. Pretty much.
I saw the C up there.
Yeah. I know James. I think James Myers. I think might be in Chicagoland as well. But yeah. So I've been really kind of fortunate over the last couple months. About every 2 weeks, I go to this one thrift store, and somebody they basically said somebody dropped off a collection of about 8,000 records.
Oh my God.
And I could see because on so when I go, I'm picking maybe 20, 30 that are in near mint condition. And you'll see on the sticker, the guy put stickers on a lot of them, and you'll see 7,432, you know, on the sticker. So the people that work at the thrift store, they're like, yeah, we just put out 50 or 100 a week, and they just keep going.
I bet they do.
Scott was saying I'd be back there every day, but
every day. Sky, James, can you read that, Sky? James has a point for you.
Yeah, if you watch McKellar's YouTube version of Mahler, he pretty much followed that performance. Michael Sachs' solo post-tone was magical. And yes, Anthony, the orchestra wasn't bad. Thanks, James.
Hey, James, don't be bitter. Cleveland, it's good too. That's okay. That's it. Jim and I are both up on the other side. Actually, Jim's the up here. Listen, Scott, where did you go? Okay, we've got about 5 minutes. I want to give you your homework. This is important because this is one of my favorite pieces. Let's get the apple pies back up there. Okay. So your homework is, and there's no vinyl, I'm afraid, unless I missed one. John Adams, Harmony Lyra, orchestral work, 3 movements. I think it's the greatest orchestral piece of the last 35 years. It's minimalist, but it's absolutely magnificent. It sounds like Bruckner most of the way through. And I discovered it listening to the Proms, and there was the BBC Symphony about 2005. And I'm upstairs in my office, and I got the radio on, Radio 3, as we talked about before. And I heard the end of this piece, and I heard these horns come in. I thought, what the F is that? It totally blew me away. And I was literally obsessed with this. And then I found out it was Harmony Lara. And I was obsessed with it for like 10 years. A friend of mine in the American University got the score and Surlocked it for me. So I had the score. An incredibly difficult piece to conduct. The flute part is crazy, but the conducting is very difficult. There are a lot of good recordings. I've got my own favorites. You can stream a lot. There's Rattle with the CBSO. There's Michael Tilson Thomas with the San Francisco. There's a great one on YouTube with Rattle and the LSO. And you can just see they're concentrating because it's really difficult. But it's a magnificent work. The opening is this massive cranking opening was supposed to be indicative of a dream he had of a tanker in San Francisco Bay all of a sudden going on its back and going up like a rocket. So that was the first one. The second one is based on the Holy Grail, what is the wound, the Amfortas wound, and it's good. But the last movement is called Meister. What is it called? Meister somebody and Quacky. And Meister, I forget his name, is a 15th century mystic. And Quacky is the name he calls his daughter. John Adams calls his daughter. And he had a dream of Quacky sitting on this Meister, this mystical guy's shoulders and flying through space. And it's an incredible work. So I haven't oversold it to you, but please, if you have a look at that, and we'll talk more next week, and I'll get Carl to do some streaming of it. But you can stream it. There's a Berlin one from the Berlin with John Adams conducting. There's a couple of air checks with the Concertgebouw. It's a hell of a mouthful for the orchestra. A very good one you can watch on YouTube is the NHK Symphony, and that orchestra has really improved, and it's with Edo de Waart, who does that piece very well, and they play it very well. It's the only time I've ever seen the Toronto Symphony get completely lost. His head was down. Michael and Jenny, he has a good one with the Scottish National on Candles, but the head was down, and it's basically, we'll see at the end. It's very difficult. Anyway, if you can get a hold of the score, but definitely have a stream. I think you'll like it. I don't know whose that was, but anyway, we're just finishing up here. So let's do a little round robin. Sky, any records coming in?
Records. Yes, I ordered the. No, you actually know this, Jack. It's just I ordered the jazz album. I don't know what it is. So Scott recommended. You guys talked about it.
I just reviewed it. Listen, ignore those two bloody guys up there and their bloody videos. Go straight to Audiphilia and read the review. Okay?
I will.
No. They did fantastic videos. Okay, and that's why I was going to buy it myself, but Jack, so generous, sent it to me, which is wonderful.
That's wonderful.
Scott, what do you got on this week? I know you've been the Americans hunkering down. Well, the results were coming in yesterday. So what are you doing this week?
Well, for non-rock, non-classical, I'm doing the Stooges from Rhino Hi-Fi, which was an old favorite of mine, Iggy Pop and the Stooges. And two more living stereo titles, the Alexander Nevsky and Petrushka. And then it looks like I'm going to be reviewing the Frank Sinatra Impex.
Oh, it's lovely. It's amazing.
Yeah.
He sings Lover. It's 1950. His voice was totally fresh. Mono. Fantastic mono. But he sings Lover.
I can't wait to hear it.
But he waits to the last verse and sings a high note. It sounds like you're at Bayreuth listening to a tenor. It's incredible.
Oh.
It's incredible. So yeah, I think you'll really love that.
Scott, do you get the 33rd version, or are you gonna review the 45?
This is the new one, the new one-step version. Yeah.
It'll be 45.
33, because I would like. I'm debating if I want to get it.
I've got the 33. It's much cheaper.
I will get a copy and do a comparison. My friend has the 33, so try to make it as thorough as I can.
And Jack spent 36 hours getting to Seattle from Tennessee. Where are you off to next, Jack? And when are you
Well,
finishing?
I'm going to be here till I'm teaching a 3-day class on minimalistic photography. Maybe I'll play the John Adams. And then I'm off to Olympic National Park next week over on the Olympic Peninsula.
And you're literally a 13-minute plane ride. You should come over, Jan.
I will be here next Wednesday night from Forks, Washington. James Myers from Forks, downtown Forks, Washington.
Anyway, Jim, what about yourself, Jim? What do you got on this week? Anything special?
God, I don't know, all sorts of things.
It's late. I know it's late. I'm sorry.
I can't think, but yeah, no, I'm sort of sorting the house out, doing all sorts of things. Got various appointments. Yeah, doing some presenting for things, and yeah.
Fabulous. Well, I will tell you guys that next week we don't have another guest now until after Christmas. So, and that's great. That's fine. So we have we'll show lots more records from the vault and all the other stuff. And please, Sky, Ryan, and Jim, it was great to meet you tonight, Jim.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Jim.
Yeah, thanks for coming on and showing those great
And
records.
Ryan.
And please bring them on. I like the camera, Ryan. You're very clear, and you'll have lots of time to show records next time. And same for Jim. And Carl will be back. And I'm going for a little bit of minor surgery, not a big deal, but it's going to be Wednesday. It's going to be Tuesday, the 3rd of December. Now it looks, if I come out and I look fine, I'll be on Wednesday, even if I have a little scar, a stitch or something. But I may look like a disaster, so I'm not sure. So I'll let you know. I'll let you know on late Tuesday, I guess it's the 3rd, if we're going to have a show on the 4th. And then the following Wednesday, I get the stitches out. That should be okay. But then we'll have another couple of shows before. But Wednesday, of course, it's either hurricanes or tsunamis. And the Wednesday is Christmas Day, and then Wednesday again is New Year's Day. We will not have shows on that day. And then we'll be back on January the 8th with a guest and with another show. So I'll just keep watching my Instagram and whatever, Facebook, if you want to know if the show's on or not. Or just show up, and if we're here, we're here. So let's just say it's a great. James says thanks, gentlemen, and Anthony. James, don't be bitter, James. Yours is good too. Nice haul. Actually, your haul's way better. Very funny, James. Thanks. Enjoyed the show as usual. Thank you so much. And Tech Writer. Okay, guys, that'll be it for tonight. Went over a little bit. Peanut Gallery, thank you so much. Brilliant as usual. To our guest, my great friend Paul Schieman, musician extraordinaire. Thank you so much, Paul, for coming on and sharing your life with us in music, and to the gang on the screen. Great to see you. Thanks, everybody. Have a good week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.